So we have the new Gregor, RB Sous Chef Gregor. He's a 2-star unit, and his skills are keep it fresh, on hit inflict paralyze, and if the target has bleed, inflict paralyze next turn, on hit inflict bleed. This is a lot better. This essentially feels like LCCB Ishmael's first skill, but a lot better because it could potentially apply paralyze on the next turn, which is a lot better than applying it on the turn you use it. Great. You fresh enough, on hit inflict bleed count, inflict bind next turn. Interesting. Alright, so this skill is going to inflict bleed count, which seems pretty good, but it's weird because it's going to hit the enemy, so they're going to lose a bleed count, so hopefully this adds more than just one bleed count. If it adds 2 or more, it's great. If it only adds 1, it kind of sucks because it's going to eat up a bleed already. Ideally 2 and 3 is better, but I think it's probably only going to be 1 bleed count, but we'll have to wait and see. Butcher of the End is inflict bleed, inflict paralyze, and heal HP based on the target's bleed, which is interesting. Honestly, this one is weird in the sense that it looks like it's going to do damage, but you're inflicting paralyze on the turn of, so it's only going to be good if the enemy has 2 or 3 skills that you can clash with, because inflicting paralyze on the same turn just feels really bad. Packed Pies, heal HP at the start of the combat phase. Alright, solid. This is probably going to be heal a little bit. This is very reminiscent of Library of Runa, the same skin and the same body kit. Very, very good callback. And then Culinary Aid, his support passive is at the end of the combat phase. The ally with the lowest HP heals HP, boosts the healing of RB Chef de Cuisine Ryoshu's passive Rustle Up. So this one is reminiscent of also base Gregor's passive, but we'll have to see what the heal is. Maybe it's going to heal for more than just 5, maybe it's going to heal for 10, but we'll have to wait and see how it is. Overall, this kit looking like a fun bleed kit with Gregor, but there's only just 2 skills that applies bleed and 1 skill that applies bleed count, so we'll have to see what the bleed stacks are. If it's high, it'll be really good, but if it's kind of low, we'll have to wait and see. Let's take a look at our girl Ryoshu, sous chef, well, not sous chef, but RB Chef de Cuisine Ryoshu. So her first skill is PC, on hit inflict bleed count, and on hit gain appetite. So appetite increases the healing provided by the passive Rustle Up, spent when the passive activates, and Rustle Up is after defeating an enemy. Heal the ally with the lowest HP. If this unit has an appetite, spend it to boost the healing based on its count. So ideally, in an ideal situation, what will happen is Ryoshu has her appetite, and she's got the lowest HP, so that when a unit dies, she heals the most out of it by consuming her appetite via her Rustle Up passive. That's the ideal scenario, but more often than not, that's not going to happen. Her IH is on hit inflict bind, heads hit inflict bleed, and if the target has bleed or paralyze, inflict HP healing down. HP healing down is decreases HP healing provided by passive abilities, skills, and coin effects. HP healing down, this would have been very useful in battles such as Chapter 3-22 for Cromer, as well as Railway Extraction with all the police units that heal out the wazoo. This would have been very, very useful, and most likely, we probably could still take advantage of this unit in those battles. The only thing is, it depends on how much the healing cut is. If the healing cut is only 50%, that's okay. Ideally, it's 75% or more. Ideally, it just shaves it all the way down to 0, but we'll see. I think if it's anywhere from 50% down to 75 to 100, that's ideal, but anything that's less than 50% feels really bad, because the bosses where they heal to full HP, such as at the end of Railway Extraction, if that mitigates their healing, instead of healing to full, it means you mitigate their half healing to like 50%, then there is even more potential for you to be able to clear out the last stage of Railway Extraction faster. So a lot of potential in this kit. We'll have to wait and see just how good this is, but I can see a lot more battles being cheesed out with her in your team. I can cook anything, boost damage based on target's missing HP. So 1, 2, 3, final coin deals more damage. This is essentially an execute skill. Ideally, the lower the health, the higher damage you do. So this will really depend on just how much extra damage you do. If it's a strong execute or if it's a weak execute, we'll just have to wait and see. We've already covered Rustle Up, but we'll cover Artistic Flavor and her support passive. When an enemy is defeated, the ally with the lowest HP heals SP. Alright, pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple enough. We'll have to see how big the numbers are, how much resources you need, but overall looking pretty good. Let's jump into the egos. So, Sinclair, his ego is Lifetime Stew. It's indiscriminate AoE. It says it targets the unit with the least HP, and if the target is an ally, this deals 0 damage. So if heads hit, it will heal the ally proportional to this user's max HP. But if tails hit, inflict burn it. But if the ally, or if the target is an ally, give haste and ego resource amp next turn. Ego resource amp is essentially increases the amount of ego resources earned from skills by the effects count for 1 turn. So from what my understanding is, if you say you applied 5 ego resource amp on your teammate, it means if they use an envy skill, they'll gain 1 envy plus 5 from the amp. And that's if they have 5 ego resource amp. But they only have 1 ego resource amp. That means that if they use an envy skill, they gain 1 from the regular use and plus 1 from the amp. So that's what my interpretation of that is. And giving haste is always pretty good. Lifetime Stew though, it's indiscriminate AoE, it targets the HP with the least HP, but then says before attack spend random ego resources to boost damage and on hit inflict burn count. So ideally you want this to be hitting the enemy because you're going to be always doing damage. But the problem is it's indiscriminate, so you don't get to choose technically, but it only targets the people with the least amount of HP. So most likely that's going to hit your teammates, especially if you're in an abnormality battle, since the bosses have so much HP. The only time this is only going to be useful is if the enemy has less than 100 HP, and by that time you should be winning the fight. So indiscriminate AoE does definitely have its uses, but doesn't look that great right now. But it says on hit inflict burn count, which is interesting because his Stew Spew, which passive, it says tails coin inflict burn if hitting an enemy. So that means if you're losing your coin flips, you inflict burn on the enemy. So this is decent for a burn build, but none of this really makes sense for Sinclair right now, only because he doesn't have a burn like identity. So overall, this kit looks like it's a support passive, at least with his awakened form, because he can give haste and ego resource ramp, but because it's hitting you, it's not going to do any damage to you, so you wouldn't use this for damage since it only targets the enemies with the lowest HP. So very niche situation where you want to use this. Doesn't look that high tier to me with this ego though. And finally, let's take a look at Don Quixote's ego. So her lifetime stew is before attack, boost damage based on current lust resources. So the more lust you have, the better. And on hit, inflict burn count. All right, not bad. And it's a single attack. Lifetime stew, ego corroded. Targets the unit with the most HP. Now this is good. Most of the time, bosses are going to have the most HP. It's great. Before attack, boost damage based on current lust resources, so good. Then spend lust resource by lust resonance, okay. So if you have like 3 lust resonance, you'll spend 3 lust to further boost damage by resource spent. Alright, so this can do more damage. And then it says on hit inflict burn count. Alright, so this is good for a burn build. Cauldron of Gorgon, at the start of the turn, convert random non-lust ego resources into lust resources. Oh, okay. So this one is good if you want to convert your other egos into lust resources, so it siphons out your other affinities into lust. So it's only really good for probably like this type of ego if you want to really funnel in lust into Don Quixote's skill set. This ego looking a little bit better, especially since it indiscriminate targets the unit with the most HP. Overall, really looking forward to the update that we're going to be getting. It looks like there's going to be a lot of interesting new playstyles that's going to come. I will say the unit that's probably going to change the meta the most is most definitely Ryoshu. Ryoshu, with her healing HP down, is going to be so massive depending on what the numbers are. Ideally, like I said, it has to be 50% or more. Ideally, 75% lifesteal cut. This by far will make it so that doing certain dungeons will make it so easy, especially in the last stage of our railway extraction for now. If it gets the healing reduction all the way down to 75% or 0, that would be ideal, because then you would be able to cheese out the boss at the last phase so much faster. So this is looking like a very S tier unit, only specific for content though, very specific for bosses that can heal, or units that can heal, because this would have helped in so many of the railway extractions, from the 3 freaking musketeers with their shell instinct just stabbing you with their adjust shell, the police units that heal for 50% HP or max HP when they're like hit for 3 turns, you know. Not only that though, in the final battle with the railway extraction where all the units heal the full HP, but you can use karma to kill it, this can look like it's going to be very useful. So we'll just have to wait and see. Overall, let me know what your favorite units are, what your favorite egos are, what you're looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Ryoshu, because this will, in theory, will make it so that railway extraction will be a lot easier. So really looking forward to it. As usual, I stream Monday to Friday on Twitch, and I post everything Limbus related and Gacha related also on a Discord community, so make sure you join that. Anyways, as usual, John Banio signing out. See you guys later. Bye for now.